Yes, back again with another trading video, another win today, and with NFP tomorrow. I had to be quite cautious and I had to try trade in the pre-market before the silver bullet session just because I was expecting very choppy conditions. But I did manage to get an entry and I managed to get a trade. Even if it may have just been a short-term scalp, it was still worth taking. As soon as I saw the setup, for me it was a no-brainer. So I'll take you into the charts and show you what happened today. So into the daily chart then, as I've been saying for a while, the structure is clearly bearish. Why is that? Because we've broken structure on the daily and the weekly. Therefore, you can be expecting that we'll chase these lower prices here. That is my draw on liquidity quite clearly. So if I draw an SD range from the break of structure on the weekly and the change in the state of delivery, you can see that we obviously have this liquidity pool there where we have these two equal lows. At the time, I wasn't convinced that was a big enough purge on liquidity, taking out that low. And we do have these draws there, obviously. So the structure for me is bearish. So we had the daily fair value gap here, which we reacted from very strong, obviously displaced beneath there and formed this order block. So I was using this to frame my entry. So I had this daily order block there, drop into the 4 hour, look for an imbalance. What do we have? 4 hour FVG. So the last couple of days, we've been chopping in and about this 4 hour fair value gap in this daily order block. So that is what I used to frame my sentiment, which was bearish. Going into the 15 minutes, so what did we have? We had a big dump going into the London session. So this, to me, showed that it was going to be a large range day and there'll be limited manipulation throughout the day. And we probably wouldn't touch these highs up there after reacting to this 4 hour fair value gap and the order block. As you can see, we purged into it several times and rejected each time. That tells me that the order flow is most definitely bearish and you should be looking for shorts today. Like I said though, with NFP, I wanted to get my trade done during the pre-market. Therefore, I used this 15-minute fair value gap to frame my entry. So short-term order flow going into the 1 minute. Obviously, I had that 15, that intermediate term fair value gap. All I was doing was simply waiting for the equal lows to form before looking at my entry off this PDA right here, the fair value gap in the 15 minutes. So what you would do in the pre-market is you would wait for any equal lows to form within the half an hour period between 8 and half 8 and then try to execute at the top of the hour. You can see quite clearly we had 2 here formed between 8 and half 8. Obviously had that news as well at half 8, which projected that volatility into the market. And then we had another equal low formed here at 9 o'clock. Therefore, I can try execute during the period of 9 till half 9. And this is where I found the entry. So straight away, as you can see, we kind of failed to come back up to this low. We rejected that the 15-minute imbalance. And then we had this inversion there to confirm the first sign of order flow to bearish. So you can see here, we obviously went through this inversion here and broke beneath these lows there. Then what was I looking for? I was looking for a fair value gap to support the framework. We had one here. So we had this fair value gap there, and then I was waiting for a reaction off it, which we had, which was obviously inside the 15-minute fair value gap. And then we had this order block there. This is a valid order block and a very strong one because we've rejected a consequent encroachment of this fair value gap. Therefore, you can look to frame your entry within this order block. And we also had another fair value gap which we tapped into and rejected immediately. So with that being said, once this change in the sale of delivery occurred here, where we did dip underneath this low and we rejected this fair value gap, that is where I entered. As you can see there, this is why I entered. I entered more so on the closure beneath this order block, not in the fair value gap. I just entered on this candle. So as you can see there, 330, which was roughly here. So it was there, and then I ended up putting my stop above this high. I don't want to see us come to this fair value gap just because we've reacted so strongly off it. And we also have this bearish order block. What did I target? I targeted underneath this liquidity pool here. I was confident because we're going into the market opening, which was here. I was very confident that we would get that volatility to purge deep underneath these lows. And that is exactly what happened. So you can see where I got out, which was at 80. So it was roughly there, roughly about 3.5, I'll say. So very good risk to reward on that. And I was happy I got the trade, even though it's not during my favorable conditions, but quite liked the setup, so I took it. And that was simply that. As you can see, because we've not had that big manipulation yet during the day, it was expected that we would get a pullback. We had that initial Judas swing, which I caught. We also had this 4 hour imbalance, another 4 hour imbalance after changing the state of delivery here, and then we reacted off it nicely. However, like I anticipated, the silver bullet session would be choppy, and this is why I didn't want to trade into it. So we retraced back up. You can see during the times here of 10 o'clock, which was there, all the way to 11. During this period, it was pure chop, so there were no entries off this point. Therefore, if you are looking to trade and you've got an idea and you want it to support your framework, I would very much refrain from using the 1 minute chart, and I would look to base my entries off the 5 or 15 minute. You can see here quite clearly we had that change in the state of delivery, but we again goes deep into this order block, which is something you don't want to see. This shows conditions are quite choppy, so it's very worth waiting for that displacement leg down, or either putting your stop above protected highs instead of imbalances. And then you can see we eventually did get the move going into lunge after we purged into this 4-hour FVG quite a few times, and then we did eventually take down the previous day's low, and that is where we ended up. And you can see there we're just underneath it going into the last hour of the trading day, so it's been a very large day of distribution. So that is it in terms of my trade today. Again, very simple entry, intermediate term fair value gap, followed by changing the state of delivery, reaction to the order block, just targeting some equal lows before the market opening. And then you can see we had that large distribution, and just following the bearish structure that we have on the daily and weekly graphs, it's very easy to stay with that order flow and you don't want to go against it. So that is why I did look for shorts today. But hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you in the next one.